we're going to be doing an art review of Christophe Young. Now, actually, I thought I reviewed this guy in the past, but turns out I checked my channel. Apparently, I did not, but I do know this artist. He does have a YouTube channel somewhere. Oh, it's right here. And I don't know, I just assumed that that I did an art review of the guy, but yeah. So this was a recent recommendation, by the way, so thanks. And Christophe Young does remind me a lot of another guy, Titov or Viktor Titov. Like, they do a lot of like these like slender, very long-limbed kind of women. They can render it to a fairly high degree, and it's kind of cool. Yeah, they have an interesting way of rendering because you don't often see like the brush strokes. Like, it does have that airbrush kind of look to it, right? Even if you zoom into this level, like, it's hard to see any kind of like round brush use, any texture brush. It all seems super smooth. So to me, that's kind of impressive. Again, even when you zoom in, and notice how even the edges are kind of hard, or sorry, not hard, they're soft. Like, you don't even see that much of a sharpness to it. For example, if you zoom in on this like chest, like, what do you call this, pack or vest, Jesus, it almost looks blurred, right? But you can tell where the edge is, so I'm not sure how they're doing that. Oh yeah, I saw this earlier, and I found out that they do drawing sometimes where the contrast isn't even that crazy for like these types of drawings. I mean, they have like these where it's more rendered, but you can do drawings apparently where the shadows are almost not there. I mean, they're there. For example, you can see it here under the pants, right? But they're so light to the point where when you zoom out, you can't even see the shadows. And for these these are more like character shots. Like, they're trying to display the design, I guess, the front view, back view. They have another sheet here where it's more action based. Pretty cool design, right? Now, I'm not much of a designer, but I do appreciate it. And if you notice the rendering process here, they do have shadows for this one, although again, it's very light, not too much contrast. But if you go to this page, they do add a bit of highlights on top, and the shadows are a lot more obvious. So I guess they're saving that for their more action-packed scenes or shots. And it kind of makes sense for something like this. I think it's more of a guide. Like, you want to guide your audience into, or maybe yourself, into what you're actually showing design-wise. And this one's more of like a way to attract or to tell a story, right? So it kind of makes sense. If you look at the line sketch or the line art too, it's like not in ink, but it's clean. It's pencil, but it's clean, right? And I think it has a bit of that brownish, reddish tone to it, which kind of makes sense. Oftentimes it just fits. It's not dark like black ink, but it has enough like weight to it. I just noticed that they sometimes for pieces like these, they will use like red lines for the pencil lines. And it's just a good look. Like, it seems to fit often with skin. You don't always have to use those types of lines, but... And the anatomy too is pretty good. Not overly done. And I think I do fall into this trap of when I do my studies where I feel like I need to get like the muscles right and stuff like that, but what you really need to remember is the anatomy on the outside. Yes, it's good to know a bit of structure, you know, what makes a body, what makes a leg, stuff like that. But you can just understand that in a very casual, general way. What you want to know is, for example, how does the knee look, right? Combined, for example, how does it look when it's bending? You know, you want to focus more on I just call it the outer anatomy, like the kind of anatomy you will usually see anyway. Not so much the muscle insertions and stuff like that. It makes sense, sure, if you're doing like comics and you're doing like superhero types of stuff where you kind of have to show the muscles, or maybe creature design, right? If you have to break things down to that level. But usually for most people, you want to know practical anatomy. That's another way of saying outer anatomy. Just, it's a kind of anatomy you would usually see, right? Like, how does the ear look in this kind of angle, you know? Even if the anatomy is not that deep, right? You don't see like super detailed stuff. It still feels real because it has enough of that practical stuff that it makes your drawing look more believable, right? Even in the works of like, or with the works of Kim Jong-gi, a lot of his anatomy is like pushed or exaggerated, but he'll add like, you know, how the wrist sort of is there, or how the, or where the rib cage is. He just knows how to demonstrate that without adding too much detail. And I think it makes his creative, imaginative drawings just a lot more believable. So I think that's something I've been learning a lot. But just seeing the, you know, these types of artists, you don't have to be that deep when it comes to your anatomical knowledge. They do have renderings like this where it's just super crazy, like high tier. Like again, you can't even see the freaking brushstrokes, which to me is insane. But I guess it's doable. Maybe not for me. You know, we have tackled a couple of artists on the channel, especially the Korean types, because I think there's like a school or a bunch of schools in South Korea where they teach a way of rendering similar to this, where it's not heavy on the brush textures, where you, when you do zoom out, you almost can't see, like it's super smooth often. You see enough of that with these like South Korean concept art design artists, or concept design artists, and with concept artists and concept designers. Oh my god. And to see that in a different way, because here it's almost like they're using a soft brush. Like if you zoom out, it can almost be like a photo to an extent. And the lighting too, it just, for example, that neck, I mean, the amount of values in there and the subtle like gradations, like it's so hard to be able to render something like, for example, this belly over here. Like how do you feel, how do you draw, not just draw, because I think drawing is easier, it's rendering these like flat abs, because you can tell there's like fat on those, there's like a layer of fat on top of those abs, and it feels like it's an actual thing, and you don't even see any lines, right? It's all just rendering. So to me, it's a way more challenging thing to do, and this has to take so long to do, by the way. But if you have the patience, as much as these things are cool, I don't think I have the patience to do it. Maybe it's a flaw, but it is what it is. And sometimes he'll do this thing where he'll combine like the girls with some kind of mechanical parts. I did see a post in their ArtStation where it's just hard surface, like robots and stuff. So it's not like they can only do like women or organic figures. They can do like more harder shaped, harder edged, more angular types of stuff. And combining both, I think, is a good balance. Again, with the rendering, interesting. This one I think does have a bit of an RGB shift effect, but again, look at the rendering, it's so insane. Even the hair, like I've seen this kind of rendering for like splash art, right? Where it's just, I mean, look at that. Nice, let's focus. Right? I'm still struggling to find the freaking brushstrokes. I don't think it exists. It almost looks like it was manifested, right? But yeah, they kind of remind me a little bit of a Sakimi-chan in terms of like the rendering, where it's just like you don't even know where to look. I mean, you want to look everywhere, but at the same time, like there's nothing to analyze because it's just perfect. Very interesting. Like the way these are drawn, it kind of reminds me of product design, or how product designer artists or how product designers draw. They kind of draw in this way, right? Almost always they have like a bold outline on the outside. It just makes your product more easier to read, and they do emphasize like line weight a lot. So seeing this, well, concept art is kind of close to concept design, right? So you know, it's a design field in a way, but just for games or entertainment. To me, it just shows me that they can do more hard shaped kind of objects. But I do have a thing for their more organic types, basically the women. Now, this one's a bit different because it's not like a rendered like the others. It's more of a simple, like cell shaded kind of sketch or drawing. But to me, is it even a sketch if it's this clean? To me, if it's a sketch but it's not sketchy, I don't call it a sketch. Like I don't feel, it doesn't feel, because this one looks too clean to the point where it's basically an illustration. But maybe to them, this may be a sketch. And if you look at the elbow, can we zoom in? Let me just zoom in a bit. If you look at the elbow over here, do you see that bit of like a fat or skin being rolled up when they're sort of extending their arm all the way outward? That's the kind of anatomy that you kind of need to notice. Like, you don't often need to know every single muscle. Like I mentioned earlier, it's about the practical anatomy, or the outside. I call it the outside or practical anatomy. It's a kind of anatomy that you can see in daily life, right? Like, how does it look to, like when it's around or covered with clothing? Like, how does the body affect the clothing? Like, these are things that I think need to be studied more, because that's something I feel like it's a common trap to focus too much on the muscles and not on the features that you're gonna see. For example, how this bit here of like this joint of the thumb, like how does that look when the skin is being like squished together, you know? And you'll notice you don't even need that much detail in terms of anatomy. Like, just know how the knee kind of looks, how the back of the knee kind of looks, show where the elbow skin is, or where it's kind of protruding, and that's it. Like, you don't need much. But you still need to study, because you need to know where to put it appropriately, because it's gonna look weird if it's like too abstract, right? So, but to me, it gives me hope. Like, you don't need to be like super Leonardo da Vinci level kind of master to be able to do some drawings like these. I'm noticing there's a bit of a soft light, I guess, like from in the background. It's like a glowing effect. It's not that strong, but it's there. I guess this is how they start the sketches or their drawings. The shadows, by the way, are very minimal. It's not too crazy, which kind of makes sense because you're trying to show off what they're made of. Because sometimes I confuse, like, for example, in like comics, they do use a lot of like black shapes to cover up areas. So they're very emphasized on like the composition and stuff like that, because your drawings have to fit a certain it has to fit like a narrative. So I get that, but for more design stuff like this, where you're trying to show off like the details, you don't need strong shadows, because you want to show off everything. I mean, look at those straps, by the way. Jesus. It kind of reminds me of Angelina Jolie. I remember watching Tomb Raider for the first time, like before the one with the Swede. I think she's Swedish. I forgot. But that's like the new one. I was raised with the first version with Angelina Jolie. It's so freaking cool, and I don't know. It kind of reminded me of what she wore, right? The straps. And again, their figures are just, take away the design, the figures just seem so, they're not overly like hentai level, but they have an allure to them, which I do like. Anyway, so let me go to the rendering. So even with this coloring, again, look at the shadows, very minimal. You almost can't see it. Like from far away, it almost looks like just flat colors, but when you zoom in, you do see those subtle shadows. And I think it does have a nice effect. Now you'll notice they do add a bit of a highlight as well, so it's not just the shadows. It's like a quick mark here just to add a bit of shine. They did the same thing with these ones. Let me show you. Right? They do have shadows, but they do have like some shine. And for example, this knee, this nose bit here, the lips, right? Compare that to this one where you don't really have like a shine, like a highlight. It's just flat colors with a bit of shadow. I also like how the dreadlocks are done, like the tips. It's sort of capped off with some kind of gold ornament. And the designs remind me of like Aztec culture. Just an old movie. I think was it from Disney or Pixar? Not sure. El Dorado, the Magnificent El Dorado. I know. I think there were two like Spanish guys, like conquistadors or something. Were they Spanish or Portuguese? Forgot. And the designs of the whole thing, of the whole world, kind of like I remember that when I look at these like designs here for the armor. And I know it's not always practical, but does it not look good? It doesn't always have to be practical, like the clothing, because I get it to an extent, but sometimes art is about looking good. Like, you want to look good in this fantasy world, right? And to me, she looks like a fighter. I mean, look at her. She has like nice poses. She looks fit. It looks like she can fight. She's armored in the right places for the most part. And she looks great, which is what art is for, right? Anyway, so if you zoom in, you can see even a bit of that red in the lines. And what's cool is their line art is not like inked. Like, it's not one line to say it all. Maybe we should pick a better photo. We should go back to kind of like this. Yes, it's clean, but it's like a pencil line. Like they allow a bit of texture, but not just texture. I think you'll see it way more here if you like zoom in. Yeah, it's clean, but it has a bit of that sketchy vibe to it, meaning it's like you can see some back and forth lines sometimes, meaning it's not always like one clear, consistent stroke. And to me, it makes it more achievable. For example, you can see a bit of like under sketch here a little bit, but when you zoom out, you can't really see it. Like it looks so clean. So I guess when you make an image this big, eventually you can achieve this sort of effect where you kind of draw things in this kind of way where it's not too tight. Well, it's pretty tight, but you're not so focused so much on the, like you're not trying to make vector art. I think that's the point. But at the same time, you can make something that's fairly pretty clean. By the way, nice feet. And those calves too. It's so freaking round. I mean, look at them toes. Right? Very simple, but they look good. And these bandages, I like how they're kind of stirrup types, meaning there's like a strap around the sole of the foot. Like you can see the heel and the front part of the foot. I do like that look. I don't know, there's something hot about it for some reason. And if you look at their forms here, it's like a back and forth between straight lines and then curving lines. Like they have a bit of both. And you can lean more on one side where, because I know artists who are more curvy, meaning you see way more curvier strokes. Some artists are more like straight or angular. So it's a stylistic choice, but if you can have a bit of both in your work, it's just gonna look a lot more balanced. You know, in the end of the day, you do what you want, or you do what feels right to you. By the way, this is their page on ArtStation. They do have a YouTube link as well. You could search their name, just search for Christophe Young here on YouTube. Yeah, let's just check out some more work here, because there's way more work. Yeah, I think I've seen this one on Pinterest quite a bit, repinned multiple times. I mean, look at this. It doesn't even look like it's like a vintage painting or a vintage photo even, right? And I do like how they're adding a bit of that noise texture in the end. It just makes it look more photographic, right? Maybe they're adding a graded map in the end as well. I mean, even like the wet textures in their like swimsuit, or it's not a swimsuit, it's like a swimming suit. It's the same thing. Swimsuit, swimming suit. I'm sorry. I'm cooked. Pretty cool. But again, it's so hard to see the brushstrokes. But maybe that's where their skill lies. Is that they're very sort of like quiet about their strokes. Oh, they do have like a photo texture here that they kind of added in. Like in its own layer. Right? I'm not sure what kind of texture is this, but... Oh, it's like to help with the grip maybe? I don't know. Oh, a scuba diving gear. I mean, going in this deep with the freaking... I mean, even the armpit looks so nice. Anyway, let's focus. I'm guessing he references a lot of models because a lot of the faces of his characters, they're so gorgeous. Like model types, like fashion... Maybe not always fashion, but just gorgeous women. Which I do appreciate. Look at this one. It does have a bit of that pastel look. Now, for this one, you do see the lines being a bit more... Kind of reminds me a little bit of... Like because I can see some like white spots here, like Jean Chin maybe, or something like that. It has that pastel kind of look. Kind of fits too with this like Oriental vibe. Can you say that? Or like Asian-esque traditional vibe. So clearly she's like a samurai. Oh, it looks like she's what do you call those? Traditional Japanese ladies with the white powder. So maybe that's how she lives, but on the side, or her double identity, or her other identity is her being like a warrior or a samurai. Pretty cool. I mean, that's how I see the image, but now this one's a lot more painterly, I think. And I do see a lot more texture. It's not like this one where it's like, I don't even know where the strokes are because it's so freaking like smooth. I mean there's some texture, but it's like, it's hard to see the strokes more. This one's a bit more obvious. And I guess they do include the original drawing, but it's like super light to the point where you can't see it. And I do notice it's a bit colored. In this case, it's like a purple. I see lots of like, it's like a purple violet kind of color for the sketch. And then, I mean, you could leave it as like black or gray, but adding a bit of color, at least one hue, it just adds something to your sketch. Again, with the faces, super elegant, super like, it's beautiful, right? Let's check out some more stuff, or some studies, some practice sessions. They also have quite a bit of like grayscale stuff too. Even their grayscale stuff, so maybe this is how they get good first. Try to get good in grayscale and then add on the colors later on. I mean, wow, look at this. It's so realistic. To the point where it could be like a photograph or like a rendering. Nice heels. I like the design. And that gun too looks pretty cool. It's not even colored, but it looks so finished. Like it's so like just rendered. Look at that. There's a bit of like fat, you can see. Yeah, sorry. Interesting. She has like stirrup. What do you call this? It's like it doesn't cover the whole hand. Like it only covers like half the hand. In this case, like 2 fingers. It kind of reminds me of stirrup leggings. But it's not. It's kind of like a strap, but not really. I don't know. But to me, it's like the nuance of like the lighting here. The different values of gray. It just looks so real. Like you have to be so subtle about these types of things. Even the way the shadow is being casted on her face from like this hair. Like what the fuck? Now this one does have more of a pencil-esque look. But it seems to have like the same finish. Maybe I'm guessing this is how it starts and then they just add color on later. You know, grayscale first and then they'll have like a coloring phase. So in that way, it makes these types of illustrations a lot more manageable.